But this is not just another health decree. Behind the ban lurks a far deeper battle, the quest for dignity, true sovereignty, and the well-being of millions. For generations, foreign corporations have flooded Africa with fizzy, addictive drinks, reshaping diets, fueling illness, and siphoning away wealth, all while African voices were muffled beneath the hiss of opened cans and the fizz of poured soda. Now, for the very first time, a leader has stood up and declared, enough. This act is not merely a bureaucratic maneuver, it is a shot across the bow of an entire system of exploitation. The tremors of this ban are rattling far beyond Burkina Faso's borders. Across Africa, a new debate rages. Should nations continue to tolerate products that erode their health and economies, or seize the chance to reclaim their future? On an unremarkable night in the heart of Burkina Faso, President Ibrahim did something few dared to attempt. With a single signature, he outlawed 6 of the most powerful American soda brands, household names that for decades have been woven into the daily rhythms of life across the continent. These brands, with their vibrant labels and catchy jingles, have long served as icons of Western dominance, splashed across billboards, television screens, and corner shops in every city, town, and village. What if banning just 6 sugary sodas could ignite a revolution that sweeps across an entire continent? Imagine a single decision that sends tremors from the dusty streets of Ouagadougou to the boardrooms of New York, from bustling Lagos markets to rural villages in Malawi. Could an action so seemingly small, outlawing a handful of drinks, truly set in motion a seismic shift in the fate of millions? Tonight, we explore the story of Burkina Faso and the soda ban that may become a turning point in African history. How did Western sodas become so deeply woven into African life? And at what cost? To grasp why this decision has rocked the world, we must first retrace the long and tangled ties between Africa and the Western soda empires. We need to understand not only the health consequences, but the cultural and economic power games that have shaped this story. Let us explore how American soda giants became so deeply woven into the fabric of African life. Their rise tells a story of power, persuasion, and profit, a story whose roots stretch back across 5 decades, shaping not only what is consumed, but how whole societies see themselves. This gesture is both rebellious and deeply Pan-African, a beacon to every country that it is possible to break free from imported cravings and economic dependence. If this moment passes unnoticed, the pattern of exploitation and declining health will only grow, deepening cycles of dependency and despair. But if Africans answer the call, a new era of self-respect and prosperity could dawn, sparked by an act as simple as banning 6 sodas. For more than 50 years, sugary sodas have flooded African markets with relentless force. In the 1970s, as African nations gained independence, foreign beverage companies saw a continent of untapped consumers. They arrived with marketing budgets larger than the GDP of small countries, armed with charismatic spokespeople and vivid advertising campaigns. Vivid bottles lined every shop, billboards shimmered with promises of happiness and youth, and catchy jingles drifted from radios in both bustling cities and quiet villages. These fizzy drinks were sold not just as refreshing treats, but as tickets to a modern, connected, global identity. Each bottle seemed to promise celebration, belonging, and progress. In Lagos, families toasted birthdays with imported sodas. In Nairobi, teenagers flocked to new fast food outlets, clutching cups emblazoned with Western logos. Yet beneath the fizz and color, a shadow crept in. A silent epidemic began to take root. Western corporations pocketed enormous profits. Billions of dollars flowed outward every year, while African communities were left grappling with disease, heartbreak, and soaring medical costs. In Ghana, the annual cost of treating diabetes has soared, draining both family savings and national health budgets. The money left for foreign bank accounts. The pain and loss stayed behind, invisible to those reaping the rewards. rates of diabetes and heart disease crept upward year after year, especially among children and young adults. Hospitals from Senegal to Kenya grew crowded with patients suffering from illnesses tied directly to sugar-filled drinks. In one Lagos hospital, a pediatrician recalls treating dozens of children each week for obesity-related complications, a phenomenon almost unheard of in the previous generation. Local doctors sounded alarms, but their warnings were drowned beneath the roar of advertising budgets and celebrity endorsements. Perhaps most insidious was how soda became a badge of coolness, prosperity, and modern life. In schoolyards and at family gatherings, children reached for imported sodas, convinced that each sip brought them closer to a shining global dream. In Malawi, a study found that over half of adolescents associated foreign sodas with success. The dangers, obesity, tooth decay, and lifelong health struggles were carefully masked behind glossy commercials and grinning celebrities. Through cunning marketing and a lack of strict regulation, sodas crept into the heart of childhood itself. In some communities, children drank more soda than water. Their bodies slowly changed to sugar cravings and habits that would shape their futures. In rural Uganda, water was sometimes scarce, but imported sodas were always available at roadside stalls, cheaper than clean water, and far more enticing to the young. But this story is not only about health statistics or clever marketing. It is about the right of African nations to choose their own destiny, to defend their people, and to reclaim what it means to be modern, strong, and independent. The soda bottle became a symbol, but also a chain. To ignore this reality is to accept a silent crisis, one that erodes not just bodies, but the very soul of cultural autonomy and pride. Allowing foreign products to define what is desirable or necessary hands over power to those with no stake in local well-being. This is not just an economic issue, it is a question of identity, agency, and respect. Burkina Faso's bold move to ban 6 major American sodas is not just a public health decision. It marks the start of a revolution, one that challenges decades of exploitation and redefines what Africa stands for. It is a line in the sand, daring others to follow. Why did one bold move send billion-dollar companies into turmoil? Because banning American sodas in Burkina Faso is not just about health. It is a direct assault on Western corporate dominance and a declaration of African self-determination. It is a clear message. Africa will not be a dumping ground for products no longer welcome elsewhere. But this battle is not only about what is inside the bottle. It is about who decides what Africans consume. It is about who profits, while African children and economies shoulder the cost. Shady trade practices have drained billions from the continent, leaving a wake of health disasters, shuttered local businesses, and deepening cycles of economic reliance. In Nigeria, for instance, local beverage producers have repeatedly complained of being undercut by foreign brands that benefit from unfair subsidies and backroom deals. For generations, Africa has been treated as a laboratory for products and strategies no longer tolerated in Western countries. Sugar-heavy sodas, loaded with chemicals and caffeine, are sold to African children as tokens of happiness and progress, while across the Atlantic, those same drinks are quietly changed or outlawed to protect local populations. In France, for example, soda taxes and bans on advertising to children have been enacted for years. Meanwhile, in Africa, such protections are rare. It is a glaring double standard, leaving Africans with the worst choices, ones that nurture addiction, illness, and dependence. When President Ibrahim banned those 6 soda brands, he was not merely making a health proclamation. He was striking at the heart of health imperialism. For too long, African bodies have been battlegrounds for imported cravings and foreign profit. This ban is a stand. Africa will no longer accept products that Western countries deem unfit for their own citizens. The echoes of this decision are being heard across the continent. Now, Western soda giants are scrambling. Their billion-dollar lobbying machines are in overdrive, desperate not only to overturn the ban in Burkina Faso, but to stop a domino effect across the continent. They understand the stakes. If Burkina Faso prevails, others may follow. Mali, Ghana, Nigeria, Senegal, country after country could begin to reclaim control over their own health, economies, and destinies. This is not the first time an African nation has stood up to foreign corporate power. In the 1980s, Kenya's ban on imported secondhand clothing paved the way for a revival of local textile industries. In the early 2000s, South Africa's legal battle against Big Pharma over access to affordable HIV medication set a global precedent. Each time, the world's powerful interests pushed back, but each time, local resolve shifted the balance. The risks could not be higher. Should this movement falter, it will reinforce the myth that Africa must accept whatever the world delivers, whatever the cost. But if it triumphs, the balance of power could shift. African nations would prove they can set their own rules, defend their own people, and reclaim their story on a global stage. Still, President Ibrahim's vision reaches beyond banning foreign soda. He is preparing for the next step, creating something new, something authentically African, to fill the space these brands leave behind. This is not just about what Africa rejects. It is about what Africa can build. Yet this fight does not belong only to presidents and CEOs. Across Africa, leaders, activists, and everyday people are uniting in support. The soda ban has become a symbol, a rallying cry to reject dependency, restore pride, and seize the right to choose what nourishes Africa's next generation. University students in Dakar have staged Drink Local rallies. Artists in Accra are creating murals celebrating indigenous beverages. On social media, hashtags like #MyDrinkMyPride are trending, connecting citizens from Morocco to Mozambique. But what does it take to build a new industry from scratch against the might of multinational giants? The answer begins with a single, audacious idea and a concrete plan to make it real. History offers both warnings and inspiration. Consider the example of Ethiopia, which in the 1990s developed a thriving local coffee industry by investing in smallholder farmers, local processing plants, and export infrastructure. Or look to India, where the Swadeshi movement in the early 20th century encouraged citizens to reject British textiles in favor of homemade cloth, sparking both economic and psychological liberation. Such efforts were not easy, but they proved transformative. Could this soda ban light the fuse for an African wave of innovation and independence beyond the beverage aisle? The answer is already materializing in Burkina Faso, where the government is investing heavily in homegrown drink production. This is not just about swapping sodas. It is about building factories, nurturing entrepreneurs, and empowering farmers to supply real fruits, grains, and herbs that flourish in African soil. Each locally bottled drink keeps profits rooted in the community. Instead of wealth flowing overseas to distant shareholders, these funds are paying local workers, feeding families, and building new schools. In Burkina Faso, new cooperatives have sprung up, producing drinks from baobab fruit, hibiscus, and millet. The ripple effect is unmistakable. Villages once reliant on imports are now finding new strength, and young people are glimpsing futures filled with fresh opportunities close to home. Elsewhere, governments are watching with keen interest. In conference halls from Dakar to Lagos, leaders are weighing whether to take the leap themselves, motivated by both the practical results and the bold symbolism. The idea of reclaiming economic agency, industry by industry, is catching fire. Pan-African pride is eclipsing resignation, while citizens are raising their voices and demanding more from their leaders. So what will it take for this movement to survive the coming storm? The answer may depend on how deeply ordinary Africans embrace this new sense of power and how far they are willing to go to defend it. Let us look at some concrete steps that can transform a single ban into a continent-wide revolution. Yet resistance has been fierce and immediate. Powerful corporations from the West are striking back with lawsuits, relentless lobbying, and accusations of protectionism. They threaten trade wars and warn of lost investment, hoping to frighten African nations into submission. In Ghana, a leaked internal memo from a major soda company revealed plans to support friendly lawmakers and educate the public, code for aggressive lobbying and PR campaigns. But each attack only deepens the sense of injustice and steals the determination to push forward. Perhaps most transformative is the shift happening below the surface, a psychological awakening that is hard to quantify but impossible to miss. For generations, imported brands were marketed as the standard of modernity and status. Now, people are choosing local drinks with pride, redefining what it means to be modern and breaking old patterns of cultural inferiority. In village markets and city billboards alike, the message is everywhere. African products, African dignity. Still, the stakes are enormous. If this movement endures, Africa could ignite a renaissance of self-reliance, spurring growth not only in beverages, but in technology, agriculture, and every corner of the economy. However, the stronger these local victories grow, the harsher the backlash from entrenched interests abroad. The struggle over soda is only the opening act of a much bigger contest. Practical steps begin with education. Schools can incorporate nutrition programs that teach children about the risks of excessive sugar and the benefits of local produce. In Tanzania, a pilot project replaced soda vending machines with fresh juice stands, resulting in both improved student health and new jobs for local fruit growers. Could a nationwide ban on sugary drinks ignite a revolution for freedom? This is not merely the tale of 6 sodas banned in Burkina Faso. It is a rallying cry for every African citizen, every leader, and every village. The real question is, how do we turn this spark into a fire that transforms health, prosperity, and dignity, not just for today, but for generations? Real change demands more than passing a single law. It means nurturing local businesses, empowering farmers who grow our fruits and grains, and insisting on higher health standards for every product crossing our borders. Picture communities where the coins once spent on imported sodas now fuel the rise of homegrown beverage makers, and where indigenous agriculture is cherished, not cast aside. Communities wield tremendous power. Form cooperatives to share resources and wisdom. Back young innovators crafting new, nourishing drinks and snacks. Imagine networks where recipes, advice, and triumphs travel faster than any billboard or commercial. In Rwanda, women's groups have formed small businesses producing traditional sorghum drinks, creating both income and pride. United, communities can withstand pressure from outside forces. Now, the world is watching. Will this be the moment Africa redefines its future and reclaims its narrative? Or will the continent be forced back into the old patterns, swallowing the same products that others have rejected? The greatest danger is inaction. If we do nothing, this victory will fade into yesterday's news, lost in the next crisis. But if we seize it, this could be the spark that ends decades of exploitation and dependence. Every small victory matters. Every local business that thrives, every child who chooses juice over soda is a step toward a freer, healthier continent. Symbolism matters too. When a nation declares enough, it sends waves across the world. Every act of resistance, whether in food, trade, or culture, can inspire others to reclaim their destiny. A simple refusal today can grow into a continent-wide awakening tomorrow. Consider the anti-apartheid boycotts, where small acts of solidarity slowly built into unstoppable pressure. Leaders must show resolve. This movement requires not only the courage to enact bold laws, but the tenacity to resist when multinational corporations threaten or retaliate. Prepare legal and political defenses. The giants of industry will not give up their profits quietly. Defend your nation's autonomy in courts, in assemblies, and on the global stage. When South Africa faced pharmaceutical giants over generic medicines, broad public mobilization and international support helped turn the tide. Similar alliances can strengthen the soda revolution. History does not just remember the brave, it is shaped by them. Will you be part of the transformation? Past generations have faced their own battles, from colonial rule to economic exploitation. Each time, it was ordinary people, farmers, teachers, mothers, and students who tipped the scales. Now, the battle is over what we consume and who profits from it. The revolution ignited in Burkina Faso is not finished with a single ban or one bold act. The story is not over, it continues with you. The health of your family, the strength of your neighbors, and the dignity of your nation depend on your choices. What you resist, what you support, and what you build next. Every coin you spend, every product you endorse, and every voice you raise, none of these are small acts. Each one is a building block for Africa's future. Will your purchases enrich the same foreign corporations that have treated our communities as dumping grounds? Or will you invest in your local farmers, neighborhood markets, and the traditions that have sustained generations? Picture the ripple effect. A single nation stands up, and others are inspired to follow. Today, it is Burkina Faso. Tomorrow, it could be Senegal, Ghana, Nigeria, countries united in reclaiming control over their food, their economies, and their stories. These are not distant stakes. What you put in your shopping basket, the brands you celebrate, and the questions you ask at the market all shape the choices your children will face and the narrative your continent will inherit. So next time you reach for a drink, pause. Ask yourself, does this nourish my body or drain my community? Does this brand honor my nation or exploit it? Every choice, what you buy, what you support, what you demand, shapes the health and dignity of your community, one decision at a time. Real sovereignty is not handed down by governments alone. It grows in living rooms, classrooms, and city streets, wherever ordinary people decide to say, enough. This is not about blame, nor is it about shame. It is about waking up. No one can force you to accept poisons disguised as pleasure, or to trade heritage for convenience. The power to change is already in your hands. History remembers the brave, but it also forgets the silent. Will you let this become just another headline, or will you seize the chance to shape tomorrow? The future is not written in foreign boardrooms or distant capitals. It is written in what we do now. Stay with us as we journey beyond the headlines and the bans to see how true independence is built when ordinary people become the architects of Africa's destiny. This is not the end, but a beginning. The next chapter is yours to write. Across Africa, the movement is growing. In Cameroon, youth groups are organizing Drink Local festivals, celebrating traditional palm wine, ginger beer, and hibiscus tea. In Ethiopia, coffee ceremonies, once threatened by instant beverage imports, are returning as proud community rituals. In Benin, small businesses are developing new drinks based on baobab and moringa, using packaging designed by local artists. These are not just products, they are symbols of hope, pride, and possibility.